Tonight on the education of Max Bickford.
Hakeem!
Show me some campus ID.
Americans are pretty afraid right now.
This was slid under my door. Keep your family off our campus or die.
I've been asked to work in a refugee camp in Pakistan.
It was your lecture that inspired her.
Your father is upset with us.
Maybe you didn't do this on purpose. It's still your fault.
Hey! Are you sure I put it up here?
Positive, Dad.
Hey, kiddo. What's the buzz?
Dad decided to go through all his old records. Problem is, he doesn't know where he stored them.
When is he gonna go digital like the rest of the world?
While you're at it, you should ditch that antique turntable. It was grinding like a set of bad brakes.
Beautifully designed artifact like that? No way. Mark my words. It's gonna be in a museum one day.
Yeah, like maybe tomorrow.
Along with the records.
There's a hidden gold mine in here, chock full of culture and history and art.
The fifth dimension.
Oh, wow. There is one of the first overtly political songs in the history of rock and roll in this album.
Save the country.
Okay, it sounds a little naive, but at least my generation had some worthwhile pursuit. What do you got?
Better haircuts.
Okay, courtesy of the new improved campus security, carry them in good health.
Oh, I knew this day was coming. Shame.
It's inevitable, I suppose.
I just hate the implication of having to take a ID tag every place I go.
Well, at least we don't have to wear them. I look fat.
I think they're going a little overboard.
Rex, do you live in the world? I've got students afraid to come to class.
Maybe it's your teaching method.
I don't mind the IDs themselves, but the implications are disturbing. I mean, what's next? Campus secret police?
Unless the Taliban attack us disguised as J. Crew models, we got nothing to worry about.
Oh, come on, Rex. Even you must have noticed that the students are a little on edge these days.
That's true, and if this helps them feel a greater sense of security, I'm all for it. Do you know that I've devoted an entire week to discussing the impact of September 11 on everyday life?
And speaking of that, obviously we have to incorporate what's happened into the syllabus.
Well, that's fine, but how do you incorporate it into the Civil War? This is a completely different situation.
Well, I don't know. 1865, last war fought on our own soil. Maybe that's just a coincidence.
But this isn't a war fought on American soil. This was an attack, like Pearl Harbor.
Which was a declaration of war.
Yes, a war fought in Europe and in the Pacific.
Which is why they called it a world war.
But it wasn't fought on American soil, Max. You're not going to win this argument.
It started on our soil.
Can we take our pictures a second time?
Miss Nelson doesn't just learn the material. She absorbs and integrates it, and has an innate ability to relate to situations and to people outside her own experience. This is just so cool. When my dad sees this, he'll flip. Thank you.
Well deserved.
Now, how do I turn all this praise into a career?
Well, any way you'd like, I'd imagine. You speak German, you speak Arabic, you speak French. How about an ambassadorship? Or Secretary of State?
Yeah, sure.
Why not? You want a career in public service? You've got the skills. You're a serious, meticulous scholar. The only thing you need is experience, and the people at Berkeley can help you figure that out. They're lucky to have you.
I have you to thank for that. I hope I don't disappoint you. Or my family.
You won't. Activism in America. Pretty low profile lately. Why study it?
Our Constitution allows for free speech. We should exercise it.
But why does it still count? To you, personally.
Because it's an external manifestation of our internal values.
Good sentence. What are those values?
Well, I think what happens in the world matters to all of us. We need to take responsibility for more than just ourselves.
What does this word mean to you, even if you're not a district attorney?
Our conviction gives our lives meaning.
Yes, if you act on them. Finding something, some cause that means so much to you that it alters your life.
Did protesting the Vietnam War alter your life?
I can't remember back that far. Yes, of course it did. Some of us were conscientious objectors. Some of us went to jail. Some of us went to Canada. Some of us went to war.
Are you anti-war now?
Well, I was certainly anti that war then. I used to think that there was no such thing as a just war. I don't think that way anymore. For instance, terrorism. Terrorism is something that has to be stopped. There's no question about that. The question is, how? The world is such a different place than it was before September. In a funny way, I kind of envy you.
But why? Things have gotten so precarious.
Well, maybe it's because you're so young and you're gonna get such an incredible chance to step up, to stand up for something, to do public service. Of course, how and when you decide to do something like that, that's up to you.
I'm really excited because my cousin Hakeem is coming to visit with some friends tonight, and one of them is really cute.
Ooh. They live nearby?
They go to Amherst. I had really wanted to go there too, but my father insisted that I go to a women's college. My family's pretty liberal, but Dad wasn't quite ready to see me go co-ed.
You know, there have actually been a lot of studies done about women's colleges, and most of them show that the girls thrive intellectually when the boys aren't around. I think that the lack of competition allows you to feel empowered, you know? I mean, there are no glass ceilings here. It's great. Now, socially, it's a dismal story. I remember when I used to be a student here in college, you know, there was just... What's happening? What's going on?
Since when is it a crime to visit this campus?
Hey, just take it easy, okay?
Hakeem, what are they doing to you?
Yasmin, tell them who I am.
You know these guys?
He is my cousin and they are his friends. You have no right
You show me some campus ID.
Wait a minute, officer, please. This is Yasmin. She's my student. She lives here in this dorm. Let her go inside and get her ID.
Can you show me some ID?
I'm sorry. I think I switched my wallets out.
I'm sorry, man. You're gonna have to step back.
Okay, now wait a minute. I'm a professor here at Dr. Haskell.
She's a teacher here.
I'm not disputing that, but the new rule states that all students and faculty must have proper ID on them at all times. I'm just doing my job. I'm sorry. Things have changed.
Professor Bickford, I wanted you to be the first to know. At the beginning of the semester, an interesting opportunity came up for me, but I didn't understand its value until your class this morning, and then it all just gelled.
Great. What is it?
What you said today about stepping up to history and living it just totally hit home for me, and I've made a decision.
What is it?
I'm not going on to Berkeley after graduation.
Excuse me?
I've been asked to work for an international aid organization in Pakistan, to teach children in a refugee camp, and I owe it all to you.
Well, don't get me wrong. What you're talking about is worthwhile. Have you thought about what you'd be giving up?
Berkeley will always be there.
Financial aid won't.
I can't let money be a concern.
Money gets you a doctorate from Berkeley. Don't take it lightly.
But that's how I know this decision to go to Pakistan is the right one. Because I recognize what I'm giving up, and I'm still going to do it.
But why do you have to do it now?
Professor, you know that the Taliban made it illegal to educate women.
Yes.
In the last year, over 800,000 Afghani refugees have fled to Pakistan, most of them women with daughters. They need teachers more than ever. I speak the language, and you said it yourself, I can absorb foreign cultures.
You're right. And you've done your homework, which means you already know they're very hostile to Americans, especially now.
And I am aware of that danger. But you meant what you said in class, didn't you? Activism is believing in a cause so much that you'd alter your life.
I didn't expect to have it quoted back to me so soon.
And you also said that how and when we did it was up to us.
Yes. And I'm very gratified that you listened, and I respect your commitment. I'm just asking you to entertain the possibility that this may not be the wisest choice at this point in your life. Will you do that?
Yes. If you will entertain the possibility that it is.
Somebody. What'd I tell you? She's dynamite. Could be the next Alanis with the right handling. She's got juice, too. Very hot on campus radio.
Who writes your songs?
You're looking at it.
Night Train Raymond. I am such a huge fan. Such a huge fan. I have been listening to your stuff since it was only on AM radio.
All right. A veteran like myself. Glad to see you.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. And you were great. You were just great. Keep up the good work.
No. Night Train is starting a new indie label.
Think you might be interested in working with me? Cut a couple of demos.
Maybe. What's the deal?
Meet me tomorrow. Say noon. We'll talk.
You know, Anita's the first one in the family to even get through college, let alone win a scholarship to grad school. How could she throw away an opportunity like that?
Oh, she's got very strong convictions.
Tell me about it. Just like her mother.
It's something to be proud of.
I am. You know, when my wife and I read the recommendation you wrote, we felt so good. So did Anita, but now this. What do you make of it?
Well, she's 21. She's old enough to do what she wants, and she's young enough so that she may not understand the bigger picture.
By the time she does, it could be too late. You know, from the time she was 3, we knew Anita was special. I always had the feeling she was destined to do great things. But running off to a war zone on the other side of the world isn't one of them. She's got to change her mind. Now, you're her advisor. I think you should do some serious advising.
I'll do my best.
I know. And I know how much you've done already. Thanks.
Hello? Mr. Raymond? Hey, you didn't get to meet the other members of the band last night? This is Adam, Charles, and Alec.
Hey, how you doing?
So, how do you want us to start? We've got some tapes, or we could do something live.
Unfortunately, guys, the situation's changed. We're not going with it.
Is this the label or us?
Does it matter?
You know something? Our time matters to us.
What upsets you the most?
It invades every part of your life, even your schoolwork.
Can you elaborate for us, Tiff?
Well, like last week, Professor Bettis asked us to write 2 poems, contrasting our past with what we hope will be our future. I can do it.
You know, other countries have learned to live with terror as a part of their daily lives. Do you think that we can learn to adapt?
We have a choice?
Now, that's a good question. Did Londoners have a choice during World War II when the Luftwaffe was bombarding them almost nightly? Well, Churchill did keep the theaters open, and the people went. Can we choose how we deal with the cards which we are dealt, or do you think that the situation itself dictates our behavior?
You always have a choice.
No, not really, Gail. Look what happened to Yasmin and her cousin. You didn't have a choice.
Maybe.
Or maybe they just took it the wrong way.
What exactly is the right way to take it?
You were there, Professor. Were the guards justified?
Well, they were doing their jobs in a tough situation, but I think it might be fair to say they got a little overzealous.
I'm sorry I'm late, Professor. I got delayed.
That's okay. We were all just talking about what happened last night.
My cousin is still trying to get over that. But my family and I have learned to live with ignorance.
Ignorance is what got this country into the mess it's in.
Are you blaming my family for that?
What? Who said that?
I don't think Gail was referring to your family, Yasmin.
Well, somebody was. This was slid under my door today. Muslim bitch, keep your family off our campus or die.
Okay, here's my home phone number, and I want you to call me anytime if you need to. I know that this is a lot to cope with.
The situation is going to get a lot worse before it gets better, isn't it?
It's hard to say. Fear breeds anger. And Americans are pretty afraid right now. And they're pretty angry.
Tell me about it. I just got a death threat.
Well, Chadwick's a microcosm. We're not immune. The thing we have to do, Yasmin, is we can't let this death threat send us into a downward spiral. But we have to use it, if we can, to inspire a smarter and saner dialogue.
You know, the funny thing is, my family moved to America to escape just such madness.
There you go.
You know, I don't want to be the one to criticize, but you gotta tell them to stop doing this.
Do what? I heard you order lemon.
I did. But then they float this thin little pathetic slice on top, and then it's just floating on top of the tea.
It looks pretty.
Well, it's inefficient. You burn your fingers when you go for it, and then when you finally get it, there's nothing worth squeezing here.
Then have milk.
I think you're missing the point.
I think you should order coffee from now on.
Party at table 6 says the heat's up too high, and the party at table 4 says it's cold. I'm thinking I should just tell them both I took care of it and let it have a placebo effect. Is that okay?
Good strategy.
How you doing, Dr. Rickard?
Great. Breaks my heart.
She's a hard worker, has a real way with people, and she's been putting in a lot of hours to save up for the trip.
Maybe blowing her scholarship.
Max, school isn't everything.
I know. She's just a bright kid with a bright future.
Which she's about to enhance, because she's smart enough and brave enough to know that she can take part in these events. I admire her.
I do too. But she is putting herself in harm's way.
Well, from what I hear, it was your lecture that inspired her.
You know, as a teacher, that makes me proud. But as a parent, it scares the living hell out of me.
Yo, I figure anyone who's got the guts to rip my newspaper in front of my face at least deserves a listen.
You're a little late.
Hey, give me a break. I want to meet you, not your band.
Please.
Easy, Missy. Whatever I see in you is strictly professional. I wouldn't be wandering around this campus like a damn fool if I wasn't serious.
Fine. What's on your mind?
I want you to meet me at my recording studio. We'll work on a couple of things.
Just me.
You said you wrote the songs. Didn't you write the songs?
Yeah, I wrote them.
Okay. Then I'm going to the source. I don't see the problem.
No problem, I guess.
So, maybe we'll lay down a couple of vocal tracks as an experiment.
Wait a second.
Now, have you ever heard yourself sing solo? So you don't even know what you sound like. If you're serious about this, you need to be aware of your own stuff. Otherwise...
Fine. But only as an experiment.
Good night, Lorraine.
Could I have a word with you?
Which one?
I need to take a personal day next Tuesday.
Fine.
I wouldn't ask, but it's very important to me.
Fine.
I haven't taken one in over a year.
Fine.
You could show a little interest.
Why? You need a personal day in order to do something personal. Asking you details would defeat the whole purpose of it being called a personal day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Have a pleasant evening.
What are you going to do on your day off?
I don't believe it's any of your business.
As your eyes find the blankness of morning, like windows that shatter with eyes, your mind's all a blur, 'cause you're not with her. But my friend, please take this advice. You'll be so much better without her. You'll be so much better without her. You'll be so much better without her.
I can't do this.
Yes, you can. You're doing it.
No, I know I can do it. It's that I won't. Not without the guys.
Now, give it a chance.
Just let me go think, okay? I just want to get out of here and go think.
All right, you do that, and we'll talk later.
Hey, Bickford. Nelson. Anita says you're the guy who gave her the idea to go to Pakistan.
Well, that's not truly accurate. I was teaching a class in social activism. She made the leap herself.
Yeah, but you ought to be more careful what you put in these kids' heads.
I'm a teacher. I pass along whatever useful information I may have learned over the years, but I never tell them what to do. I always urge them to make their own decisions.
Yeah, but they look up to you. You're their model. Were you an activist?
Yes, I was. And I learned a hell of a lot.
Yeah, but you didn't let it stop you from going on to grad school, did you?
Circumstances were completely different. It wasn't an option.
Well, it shouldn't be an option for Anita. And you should have told her that. I mean, you have a responsibility here.
Which I take very seriously. Now, I did everything in my power to help Anita get into Berkeley and to become a critical thinker, which she is.
She could be in real danger out there. She's risking her life. What kind of critical thinking is that?
However painful her decision might be to you or me, it's hers, not ours.
But I want you to tell me as one father to another. How the hell would you feel right now?
Pretty much the same way you do.
You know, maybe you didn't do this on purpose. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. It's still your fault.
My uncle worked at the Pentagon. It's impossible for me not to have some residual anger at the Muslims.
I am sorry about your uncle, but your anger is misguided. I'm Muslim, and nobody in my entire life ever did anything like that.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, since September 11th, if I had to fly on a plane, say, and the two guys sitting next to me were Egyptian, it would make me nervous.
The terrorists were from Saudi Arabia.
The guy who crashed the first plane was Egyptian, for the record.
And Timothy McVeigh was an Irish Catholic American.
And
so
you're
what?
Latina, Carmen. You know as well as anybody else what it's like to feel biased.
The sect that attacked on September 11th was a small radical detachment, a fringe group.
Agreed, but they don't wear ID tags, right? So how do you know? I don't mean to sound racist, I just...
It doesn't just sound racist, it is racist. It's racial profiling.
Okay. Everybody sit down. Racial profiling. Is there a difference between racial profiling in wartime or in peacetime?
No, it's all the same impulse. Guilt by association.
Unfortunately, under these circumstances, it had some validity. The terrorists are a hidden enemy.
It's true. But when Senator Joe McCarthy set out to rid America of the hidden communist terror, didn't he actually just create one that was worse?
Maybe, but I read an editorial that suggested that all Middle Easterners carry special IDs. What do you think of that?
Let's see. Ethnic IDs. Sound familiar, anyone?
Nazi Germany? The Jews were forced to wear yellow stars of David.
Exactly. And in Afghanistan, the Taliban decreed that Hindus should wear yellow stickers inside their coat pockets. It's not the best model. Anyway, the World Trade Center terrorists had IDs. They had credit cards. They lived freely in a free society. Consider this. After Pearl Harbor, we interned 120,000 Japanese Americans. Now, it seemed vital to our interests at the time, but how do we now view that practice? Through the lens of history.
But if people look Muslim...
Wait. Everybody in this room looks Muslim. It's the largest growing religion in the world. Millions of people practice Islam in the United States alone precisely because we have no rules about religion. A lot of people have fought and died and continue to fight and die for that precept.
With all due respect, Professor, all the rules changed the day they started flying people into buildings.
No, Gail. On that day, all the rules became even more important. Albert Einstein said, peace cannot be achieved through violence, but only attained through understanding. Churchill said about Hitler, we will have no truce or parley with you or your grisly gang who do your wicked will. You do your worst, we will do our best. Now, in light of all that, I want you to research, support, and defend a point of view that is the complete opposite of your own.
That sounds pretty impossible.
It's imperative, Gail. History is rife with examples of countries who have refused to see the real face of their enemy and have suffered disastrous consequences as a result. Now, if you guys can't even do this in the classroom, how do you expect to do any better when you're the ones running the government, running the corporations, and running our country?
Max, I just had an unpleasant conversation with Vic Nelson.
What does he want? My resignation?
No, but he claims you're spouting subversive ideas.
Whoa! I haven't been charged with that in 35 years.
I remember it well.
Yeah, well, you were pretty subversive yourself.
I still am. I just keep it a secret. So, is Anita Nelson really going to volunteer to Pakistani refugee camp?
Yep.
I guess I should be complimenting you for being able to fire up your students.
You think you and I would have done the same thing if we'd been brought up in this time and place?
I wonder. We protested Vietnam in San Francisco and D.C. Pakistan's another matter.
You want to know what's ironic? I opposed the war in Vietnam because it was immoral, but there was always a fear factor. I didn't want to get killed. Anita is diving headlong into that same fear. It's amazing.
Have you tried to turn her around?
Yeah, but she seems pretty determined. I don't think there's anything to do but accept it. Anything I can do to help with her father?
No, unless you can get him to pay his bill. He's withholding the last half of this year's tuition.
Oh, you know, I would, but he thinks I'm a subversive.
Gee, Max, if you can inspire a student to risk her life in a war zone, you should be able to get a parent to settle his tab.
Okay, it balances.
Good.
So I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, and I have a doggy bag for you.
When do you not? Thank you, Lila. Good night, Professor.
Anita, I know you think I'm badgering you.
You sound like my dad.
I'm a father. And fathers worry about their kids no matter how old they are. Natural instinct.
You know, I kept that little deal we made. I thought about whether this was the wisest choice at this point in my life. Have you kept your part?
Yes, I have. 90% of me thinks that this is the greatest opportunity in the world for you. But 10% of me is still screaming, don't do this, it's much too dangerous.
Well, I thought about if I waited 3 years till I got my doctorate, that I might be able to do a lot more than I can now.
That's a good point.
But then it occurred to me, look what happened on one day in September. In 3 years. It could get a lot worse. There just isn't any time to waste. Good night.
I know I'm an idiot.
No, you're not. You're the guy who helped a teacher how to think like that. Can't you take a compliment?
No.
boil the milk in with the chocolate and the sugar.
You don't have to tell me, pal. I happen to be an expert on hot cocoa.
Whatever.
You...
Hey, y'all.
Hey, now.
Hey, firstborn.
Hey, you ever hear of a group called the Chiffonettes?
You betcha. They were big when I was in junior high. They had a hit song called Burning Rubber, which I thought was quite a pun.
What's a pun?
I'll tell you later.
You don't have their album here, do you?
Oh, well, if I do, I don't have a clue where it is.
Maybe you still have it, Dad. Will you help me look for it? Night Train Raymond wants to produce me.
Hey, big time.
But he wants me to ditch the band.
That's a tough decision.
Yeah. You told me that you saw all the great bands when they first started out.
Yep.
What do you think about us?
What do I think about you? If you were playing the Fillmore back then, you'd rule.
Thanks, Dad.
I hate to disagree with a rock icon.
That's okay. You're kind of an icon yourself.
Dr. Haskell, can I talk to you?
Sure, come on in. Did something happen?
No, it's just the assignment that you gave us. I'm really struggling with it.
Well, struggle isn't always a bad thing.
But I just don't see how I can espouse views that are insulting to my family, my culture, to me. Views that led to a death threat.
Sit down, Yasmin.
It just hurts to try and think like my enemy. How do you do that?
That's the interesting thing about enemies. They tend to change. Think about it. In America, in this century alone, Japan, Germany, Spain, Italy, all were once our bitter enemies. And now, they're counted amongst our closest allies. We're in business with the Russians. What I want you to do, I'm asking the class to do, is to find our common ground. Sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Professor Bickford?
Anita.
Lorraine was gone, so I just came in. You have a second?
Sure. Sit down.
My dad won't pay the last part of my tuition. Or room and board. And I can't possibly work enough hours at the diner to make up for it. So I might have to move out of here, and what if I can't graduate?
Hold it. Nothing like that is gonna happen.
How do you know? In this economic climate, I realize this school is well endowed, but they
Anita,
still...
I've already spoken to President Bryant, and the school is not gonna penalize you at this late stage. Your father is upset with us. With me. But that's perfectly understandable.
No, it isn't. I have worked very hard my whole life to make my parents proud, particularly my father.
And he is very.
Well, then why won't he talk to me? Last conversation we had, he hung up on me. Do you know what that feels like?
Yes, I do. And I know what it feels like for him.
When I was a kid, my dad worked the night shift a lot. And he'd come home just as I was getting ready for school, and he would always make breakfast. For him, it was dinner. He did that no matter how tired he was, just so that we could spend that time together.
Anita, he's still the same guy. He's just terrified that something bad will happen to you.
And so that's why I'm thinking maybe I should just do what he wants. I don't want to lose him.
Look, let me tell you something really important. You can't live your life for other people, not even your parents.
But I can't just go off like this with us estranged. Will you talk to him for me? Please.
Anita Nelson has asked me to speak to her father. They've become estranged over this thing. I couldn't say no.
Oh, good. I'm proud of you.
Well, that sounds patronizing.
It's not.
No, I know patronizing when I hear
It
it.
isn't patronizing. I can just see that Anita has become a real priority for you.
Well, yeah. How often do we directly get to affect a student's life?
Pretty often.
No, I mean really affect them.
I do too.
No, you don't.
Affect them?
Mean that.
Of course I do.
You couldn't possibly...
I connect.
I connect with.
Then you affect them.
No, I don't mean little itsy-bitsy, minuscule effect. I mean big, profound, long-lasting effect. This is a very unusual situation.
For you.
Not for you.
Not really. I would hope that I'm having a long-lasting and profound effect on Yasmin's life.
Uh-huh. And exactly how often does this happen?
Well, more often than you apparently think.
Okay, good for you.
Now, that sounds patronizing.
I'm just adopting your position.
And this applies to the search committee. How?
That is the silliest thing I have ever heard.
Why? Because it would be impossible for me to assume the position of someone like Rose, for instance.
You might learn something.
Now, hold on. Wait, Max may be onto something here. Maybe the reason that we bicker with one another all the time is because we truly don't understand where each of us is coming from. I mean, honestly, if we could just walk a mile in the other guy's shoes, I think...
None of you can do this. Not one of you can empathize with your own colleagues. Pathetic. I give you an F in empathy.
All right, Max, you have a point of sorts. So, from now on, I still refuse to go as far as assuming another person's opinions, but I will try to keep an open mind, both in general and regarding the search committee.
I agree.
Well, I will if Pinsker will.
Well, Miss Rose, I'd be honored.
Excellent. All right, back to business. First thing we have to do is nominate a chairman for the search committee.
I would like to nominate myself.
And wait a minute. Can he do that?
Well, nobody else will.
That's for sure.
It's so self-serving.
Well, I happen to be the best qualified for the job.
My grief over the friends I've lost is eclipsed only by the loss of America's innocence. The rest of the world sees us as powerful, but I am, for the first time, afraid in my own country. And that fear is what fuels the anger I feel at those who did this to us, and those who resemble them.
Thanks, Yasmin. That was great. Gail.
My argument was to be for a nonviolent solution to the terrorist issue. But honestly, Professor, I couldn't find one.
The assignment was to try.
I did, but even though I didn't find a solution, I did find this. It's by Rumi, a Sufi Muslim poet. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there.
I respect that as a healthy start. Carmen, what have you got for us?
I heard this at a special memorial service in New York. It's the Muslim call to prayer.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah.
Mr. Nelson, can I talk to you for a minute?
Lunch is my only peaceful time.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is important.
Get Anita to change her mind?
No. Anita is going to go to Pakistan whether you or I like it or not. I think the best thing to do is to support her decision.
I supported every decision that kid made her whole life. I can't support this.
You know, I forced my daughter to go to Chadwick because I thought it was in her best interest, and it was best for me financially. And there hasn't been a day since then that she hasn't wished she was somewhere else. It used to make me so angry. Now it just makes me sad.
These kids don't know how lucky they are. I broke my back for 20 years just to be able to pay for a place like Chadwick. She can have the whole world right at her fingertips. Hell, when I was her age, I was in the service.
Were you drafted?
No, I volunteered. Yeah, I guess the apple don't fall too far from the tree, huh? Excuse me. At least they gave me a rifle. What's Anita gonna have to protect her?
Same thing you've given her all her life. Good judgment and a strong will.
I gotta believe that God will protect her, bring her back home safely. But what happens then? I mean, this Berkeley scholarship, big deal, no?
Yeah. But you let me take care of that. You got something else to do.
Yeah, pay the damn tuition.
No, just call her. She's going crazy. You have to tell her you love her. Make her breakfast. Anita Nelson is taking a huge risk going to Islamabad, correct?
I would think so.
But she's getting an extraordinary learning experience, right?
Yes, she would. So why are you quizzing me?
If she were to do a practicum and wrote about her experience in the refugee camps, it could be a pretty impressive bit of research. I want you to make that appeal to the powers that be at Berkeley. Get them to give her the same financial aid and credit for spring semester in Pakistan.
And I would put my reputation on the line. Why exactly?
Because you're still an activist and you're just too lazy to go to Pakistan.
So what would happen after one semester?
Well, it'll be 7 months, including summer break. She'll go back to Berkeley.
How do you know?
I think you're wrong about the band. Our synergy is the key to the whole sound.
You'd been together for 40 years like the Stones? I might believe that.
Well, I'm not doing anything without them.
All right.
Hold up. What the hell's wrong with you?
I don't like being threatened.
Excuse me?
I made you an offer. There is no counteroffer. When I said I didn't want your band, I was serious.
So was I.
I can see that. But what I can't figure is why.
Because loyalty counts in my book. What?
Most musicians I know would sell their entire family down the river before you ask. Know who you remind me of?
Is that a trick question?
Laura Nero. Not a look, but a spirit.
She wrote, "And when I die," right?
When she was 20, it was like she looked into her future and just accepted all.
You knew her?
Certain people just stay with you.
She was pretty good, huh?
Laura was a regular hit machine back then. And it was beautiful. Wedding Bell Blues. Save the Country.
Save the country. My dad tried to get us to listen to that.
You should have paid attention to him. Check it out.
I will.
Oh, and now, ditch the pink in the hair. Yesterday's news.
A research paper?
This is the best of all possible worlds. And on top of that, you get to make your father feel better, which is no small thing.
But you're assuming that I'm going to want to come home in September.
I'm assuming that you're a woman who is smart enough to want to have a long-term plan.
That starts with a doctorate from Berkeley.
No, it starts from a refugee camp in Pakistan, and it builds from there. Maybe to, who the hell knows, the Office of Secretary of State.
This is a win-win situation.
Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10.
Definitely a 10.
What about you, Prez?
It's okay. I found some cooler ones, though. Where's Motown?
Motown? That's in a faraway land called Detroit City. Oh, wow. This is a real classic. But before we even think of putting this on the turntable, we shall take away all this dust.
Save
Stay tuned for scenes from our next episode. Next on the education of Max Bickford. So, you're not.
I would never date a professor.
I happen to know how these things turn out.
Because of how we turned out?
So now you're an expert on student affairs. What do you know about this?
What about you and Andrea Haskell? What about me and Andrea? You got hammered 5 years ago. You told me everything.
I have no memory of that at all. Josh is the only one who knows.
How do you know?
Join the stars as Kevin James hosts the People's Choice Awards, live, CBS Next.
These lawyers have tried the most controversial cases and have won against all odds.
Hey!
But this week, oh my God, they will face the unthinkable when they could lose one of their own. It's powerful drama you can't miss.
She said that until now, her life had been wasted.